What's up, guys? Thanks so much for clicking on the video. My name is Leah, and hey, y'all, we got to recap and review Real Housewives of Miami. This is season 7, episode 1, and I am ready. I'm locked in. Okay, I'm buckled up because I know this is going to be a chaotic, good, and messy time. All right, and I know you know it too. So let's get into this review. So before we get a little spicy, I just have an announcement to make. I have been given the opportunity to be a part-time panelist of the Whether You Like It or Not panel, Real Housewives of Miami edition. Yesterday, which will be Thursday, we filmed our first panel review. I did it with JB Says What and Really Be TV. I had a lot of fun. I was nervous as hell, y'all. I ain't gonna even lie because I don't know how people go live all the time. It's so chaotic, seeing people say hi to you in the chat and you want to respond, but then you moving on. Like, it was a lot. I was like, y'all, I feel like people built different who can go live consistently. I mean, of course, I feel like eventually you get used to it, but it was an enjoyable experience. So I am excited to be a part-time panelist. The panel will consist of myself, JB Says What, Really Be TV, Yocrates, and the Bell Perspective TV. So please check it out. If you want to see the first episode, I attached it to my post on my community tab, okay? But let's get a little spicy, all right? So like I just said, let's get a little spicy because y'all know we got a few things we got to get into before we get into the review, okay? So first up, on Wednesday, they had the premiere party for Real Housewives of Miami. And I saw a couple of clips going around with Bryce Sanders, interviewing some of the ladies on the red carpet. Or I don't even know if they had a carpet, but you know what I mean. And he interviewed Lisa and Alexia. And I was surprised who Lisa had as a plus one to the premiere party. So let me play that clip for y'all.
So yeah, I'm really happy that Marina and I have made up right now, and I hope this continues forever because family first.
This is not something I thought I would see tonight. You and Lisa back together. How are you feeling about reconciling with her?
It was a birthday celebration for the grandkids, and after a couple of years when I didn't see Lisa, they met again, and I decided that it's time. It's a family, and no matter what could happen, the kids have to have a grandmother and mother who are friends, not an enemy. And from that point, we are friends, and for the kids' sake, to make them happy, and I hope I will be happy, because in a way, I know Lisa for more than 15 years, and she was my daughter-in-law, but I feel like a daughter.
Yeah.
And it's upsetting, but life is life, and anything could happen. And in that particular case, I think it was wonderful that we got together. And now I can enjoy my grandkids even more, because I can not only come to my son's house, I can come to Lisa's
I think it's beautiful and very big of you. How does your son feel about all this? Have you asked him?
No, my son only asked me not to be don't make a look or don't do anything, make it nice, because he was afraid that I can make it something. But I told him, no, I want to get friends with Lisa again. There have to be. Family is the most important thing. And I'm not a spring chicken anymore. My husband passed away 2 years ago, Lenny's dad. And I'm alone, and I want to spend much more time with Lisa and grandkids.
I love that. I'll let you get in there and go hang out with them. I think it's great.
I'm very happy. Yeah.
So I looked up the lady's name. Her name's Marina. I think that's how you say her name, Marina. Either way, I don't know how Lisa, like, I couldn't do it if I was her. In all honesty, I would be cordial with that lady if we really had to sit down and like really talked out our issues, but I would not be friendly. Like, we would not be friends. You would not be at my premiere. You be sitting at that house with Lenny and his new lady. You would not be, no ma'am. No, like, no ma'am. My thing about it is what really rubbed me raw about Marina is she gave false hope. And I don't like when people do that. In the beginning, when Lenny was doing what he was doing to Lisa, Marina was saying how she didn't know like who this new man was, like that wasn't her son, and she taught him better. Only within the same season to switch up on Lisa, and then you helping call the police on her. You're arguing with her while she's arguing with Lenny, and it's like that would enrage me more, because it's one thing for me to just have this notion of like you're gonna pick your son's side because that's your son. It's another thing for me to think that you have my back, and then you turn on me. So I don't know how Lisa's doing it, because I wouldn't do it. Could not be me. Like, I would not do it. But this also gives me an indication that like the reports saying that Lisa and Lenny are in a better place is actually true, because I do not believe that lady would be over there hanging out with Lisa if her son still had like real big issues with her, because you definitely can tell that her lifestyle is funded by what Lenny gives her. So I was like, okay. The next clip I want to play for you guys is the interview that Bryce did with Alexia. He specifically asked her about her relationship with Todd. So let me play that for you.
A better wife. As far as the courts are concerned, you and Todd are divorced, but there have been pictures of you two looking coupled up. Set the record straight. What is the status of you and Todd right now? And no watch and see. Tell me what's up.
I was going to say, you'll have to watch and see. You know, that's like the typical line to say. But you do, we'll have to watch and see. So, I mean, we're together. I mean, it's not a secret. Yeah, we love each other, and we are, you know, working on it and just, you know, trying to love each other better. And we've learned a lot from this whole journey, I want to say, yeah.
So will you get remarried, or is it one day at a time right now?
Next season, I'm just kidding. You know, a housewife loves to get married on the show. You know, maybe that's why we were doomed, because, you know, they do say that about the housewives, that all of us end up getting divorced. I want to disagree with that, but that's like a whole different conversation. But yeah, well, you never know. You know, all we know is that we love each other, and we are very happy with each other. We're at a good place, and we want to be together.
I don't know what Alexia is doing, but it's not surprising to me that her and Todd are still like they're together in present day, because after the divorce was finalized, I think it was like maybe a week. Maybe not even a week, but after a couple of days of the divorce, Alexia and Todd were like there were paparazzi pictures of them sitting like on the beach together, she kissing him on the cheek, or like it was just like, okay, girl, you got a divorce. Why are we still up on him? So it's not surprising to me. And the fact that before they even got a divorce, people were already reporting that they were hanging out and holding hands. I was like, yeah, I don't think it's for a storyline though. I will say that, because I've seen a lot of people say that, and I'm like, no, y'all, I've always thought Todd's money was funny, but I feel like this is real. I really do feel like Alexia's life is a novella. It's a movie. Like stuff, it's a movie, bro. It's a movie. So I said, okay. So, like I said, these two interviews were done at the premiere party for the season. Well, they took a cast photo and the girls were already being shady. So, shouts out to Reality Rundown, because they reposted a tweet from a guy by the name of Nate the Boss 13. The girls are starting. Throw your shade, ladies. Hashtag RHOM. And it's two screenshots of the cast photo that they took at the premiere party. But you can see in Gertie's post that Julia is like cut in half, like almost cut out the picture. And on Adriana's post, she's cut all the way out the picture because it's the same picture. So let's get into it, okay? So Gertie said this. She said, Miami doesn't just bring the heat. We are the heat. Hashtag RHOM premieres tonight, 9 p.m. Eastern. You watching or what? And then she goes on to say, thank you to TV by Pop. This, I don't even know what this name. I think it's Rose GR Miami. World Eye. And then it says, for making last night a dream premiere party. You see Kiki in the comments saying fun times. Then the person that they got it from, Nate the Boss, saying, not Julia at the end, cropped out. You throw your shade, Gertie, LOL. And yeah, you see only half of Julia. And I said, okay, at least Julia's still in the picture when it comes to Gertie. With Adriana, she gone. She is gone. So then it just says, Adriana says, premiere day, tune in tonight at Bravo TV at 9 p.m. It's going to be fire. Oh, Adriana said, girl, I do not rock with her. At least, I guess Gertie is trying to be like, she gonna be shady, but I think Gertie's not gonna go all the way with it until Julia really pushes her very far. But Adriana is like, bump that, because she cropped that lady all the way out the picture. I love mess. So I do have two other things that I want to talk to you guys about as it pertains to the episode, but I'm gonna like talk about them in the review. One thing I do want to talk about before we get into the review, and it's the last thing that's a part of the spicy corner, is Dr. Nicole. So she weighed in on how she felt about the discourse between Gertie and Julia, and I actually agree with her, okay? So this is what she said. It says, and this is coming from Jay's reality blog. It says, Nicole weighs in on Julia versus Gertie. Hashtag RHOM, and they got it via the Pink Box podcast. So it says this. Dr. Nicole commented this. It says, this is the type of petty nonsense that makes being in this friend group too stressful. Everything gets exaggerated and taken out of context for the sake of making a scene. Sorry, at Gertie Design has to go through this nonsense. And so then Gertie responded saying, I love you. You know the entire truth and nothing but the truth. I'll just be chilling here with my long ass receipts as the slander attempts begin. So this made me feel like two ways. I agree with Nicole and Gertie because Julia is making an issue that is not an issue. But I also feel like Gertie probably is going to be dropping receipts throughout the season. And I'm here for it. If you got receipts and it proves your point, girl, drop them. Drop them. And I'll be reporting on them in the reviews and in the spicy corners, okay? But I agree. Like, this is a non-issue, and Julia is just dragging it because she ain't really got nothing going on, and she don't want to put them kids on this show. But before I get into a rant, let's get into this review. All right, y'all, so let's talk about it. So this was, like I said in the intro, this was a premiere. I would give it a solid 9 out of 10. My only gripe with it is that it came on at 9 o'clock, and I'm so used to Housewives shows coming on at 8 that, like, it bothers me when they don't come on at 8. I'm just kind of like, I feel they purposely disrespect Miami when, to me, Miami, Salt Lake City, and OC are the big three right about now. And OC and Salt Lake City get the right amount of promotion, but Miami doesn't. Like, there's a bunch of people that were online that were like, I didn't even know Miami came back. And it's because they don't give them the right promotion. And I've been saying this since they put the show on Bravo, put the show back on Peacock, because we was in the trenches on Peacock having a good old time. And I just feel like if y'all were going to take them off the streaming platform and not give them the push that they deserve, it's stupid. I don't get it. I don't get it. So I would give this premiere a 9 out of 10. I tell y'all this all the time. A premiere episode is supposed to be basically another version of the super trailer. This premiere episode is supposed to get you invested in the season, and I'm locked in because I know it's about to be some chaotic shenanigans, and I'm ready for them, okay? I'm ready for the mess, okay? So I knew we was going to get a nasty montage for the opening, and we did. So it opens up to April 2022. Basically, we're at Alexia and Todd's like wedding ceremony. I think that was the opening episode for season 5. And if you remember, unfortunately, during season 4 of the rebooted season, Alexia and Todd were supposed to get married, but her mom died on the day of the wedding. I would have took that as an omen. But she and Todd decided to elope like on the off season, just the two of them. And so they decided to have the huge ceremony again for their friends who could not attend. And mind you, I'm just like, Alexia's life is such a novella. It's like I said, it's a movie. Like, she been going through it since season 1. Just so much stuff going on. So the episode continues with the montage. We have them at the wedding ceremony during season 5. You got the fireworks. They're professing their love to each other in front of everybody. We see Frankie. We see Peter. The girls are there. Everyone's smiling. Then we get a flashback to season 6 when he gifted her that watch. And she was talking about how much he makes her feel special and how she loves him and all of that good stuff. So then the screen goes black. It opens up and it says 2 years later. And then we get the headline from page 6 about Todd filing for divorce against Alexia 2 years after being married. And everybody gagged. All the girls are gagged and like, girl, what? We got Larsa and Lisa, I think at Larsa's apartment, and Larsa is just like, girl, they only been married for 2 years. Like, why are they divorcing? Lisa is like, I guess Adriana was right. And I said, yeah. So then we get to Adriana's house. Side note, I love Adriana's backyard. It's so beautiful. Like, the way I would just be sitting outside watching movies and just chilling. So Adriana's at her place with Kiki, and Kiki's just like, I just can't believe what's going on. Adriana ends up saying, I told y'all I was right. I knew I was right, but she was like, I wish this is one thing I wasn't right about. I don't buy it. You had a sense of glee under, like, in that tone. I wish I wasn't right. I wish I wasn't right. No, you are a hater. You're a hater. But I'm not gonna lie. Even though I felt like last season Adriana was being a hater, I didn't think she was too far off about what was going on with Todd and Alexia. I didn't, because it was very weird to me that Todd was forcing Alexia and Frankie to move out of that apartment and find a new apartment, and he wasn't helping. Like, he wasn't trying, he didn't want to really see anything. So that made me feel like, girl, either his money is funny and something about to go down and he's trying to downsize, or y'all are about to separate, or it was weird. It was so weird because they went from that lavish penthouse apartment to a regular nice penthouse, but it was nothing compared to what we saw Alexia in the first season of the rebooted season, that I was just like, something ain't right. So like I said, even though I thought Adriana was being a hater, I did believe her when she said they was having financial issues or something was up. And Alexia saying that she was blindsided, I think to a degree she was, but I think in the back of her mind, she knew something was up. Because when she had that party where she was like, it was the beginning of season 6, and she was just like, I know everyone's wondering why Todd's not here. It's not like we're getting a divorce. And it was weird because everyone was like, why would you say that? Yeah, girl, you knew something was kind of shifty over there. So we then see her at Marisol's house. So it's Alexia, Marisol, and Julia. We don't see Julia yet, but we end up seeing, like, when I tell you Alexia is holding on to Marisol for dear life, like she's a life vest and like the Titanic just happened and she trying to stay afloat, like she gripped around that lady. And she's just like, I can't believe he did this to me, Marisol. I can't. And Marisol is just like, girl, I never wanted this for you. She was like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Like, and it's like, what can you say to your friend when this is happening? So Julia comes in, they hug her, and then they sit down in Marisol's den area. And Julia's like, girl, what happened? And Alexia starts telling the story where she basically says the day before Todd moved out, him and his daughter, she was like, Todd took me to dinner. We had amazing sex. He told me I was a beautiful woman, how wonderful I was, and how great of a lover I was. And then the next day you leave. She got frustrated while she was telling the story because she was like, that day I was going to go see Peter. Frankie was staying at the house, and she was like, I should have known something was up because Todd was trying to get me out of the house. And he kept being like, well, why don't you go see him now? Like, why don't you go now? And I'm like, well, no, it's too early. But she was just like I should have known something was up. So she leaves the house to go meet up with Peter. Next thing you know, when she come home, Todd's stuff is gone and his her stepdaughter's stuff is gone. And Frankie ends up telling her like Todd is leaving. And so it's really frustrating. Like, that's what really hurt Alexia, because she was like, you did all of this in front of Frankie. Like, why would you do this all in front of my son? And so then Julia ends up asking, was Todd kind to the boys? And she's like, no. And I said, Alexia, and production didn't do a good job going back to the season 4 episode where Todd gets into it with Peter and Alexia about how they're taking care of Frankie, because I was on Todd's side and I'm still on Todd's side. Frankie, I think, is like 25, 26 years old. Yes, he is an adult that had brain damage, so he's different, but that doesn't mean that he can't live a life with some type of independence. And the way that Alexia treats him, as well as Peter, it infantilizes him, and it's a messed up thing to do, because when Alexia is no longer here, what is Frankie gonna do? Because I sure hope she don't leave Frankie to Peter, because I wouldn't trust Peter with a rock. Okay, like, I wouldn't trust him to watch a rock. So I'm just kind of like, you cannot leave your son that has all of these challenges with him. So you need to start putting him in. We saw him in that program where they were teaching him how to live independent, how to order a Lyft or a taxi or an Uber, how to get on the bus, how to take care of yourself. I was hoping that Alexia, and I hope she still is sticking with that, where he can like get a job that's more so instead of him like just being babysat at the nail salon, you know? So she ends up saying no, he wasn't really good. But Ty checked y'all, and Peter didn't like the way that Ty checked him because Ty wasn't scared of Peter. And I wouldn't be scared of Peter either. So she just starts crying because she was like, I can't. And so Marisol was like, I'm so sorry, girl. And she was just like, I feel like, she was like, I feel like I let my boys down. I feel like I let them down. And so she's just breaking down. She was just like, I don't know what happened. And so Julia was like, you did nothing wrong. Like, he was a coward for just moving out of the house that way. And I do agree with that. Like, if you don't want to be with her anymore, at least have the balls enough to tell her, hey, I don't want this anymore. So then, so the conversation continues with basically Alexia explaining that even though he moved out of the house and like filed, they were still in communication. They were even talking about calling off the divorce and going to counseling. She was like, Monday and Tuesday, we were good. And the next thing you know, I get a call from my attorney basically saying that your husband's going to file for a divorce and we need to be prepared for it. And so Julia's like, girl, he a coward. Like, he like, are you serious? She starts crying again. Marisol ends up telling Alexia, like, girl, this is not the first time you've been through anything, and this is not going to break you. This is why friendships are important. And Julia reiterates, she was like, yes, you have your friends to rely on. And then next thing you know, Alexia started crying again because I was like, Alexia doesn't want that. Alexia wants her man because she's a pick-me. Alexia's like, I said, ooh, girl. Ooh, girl. So then we also get this scene of Alexia in the car. It's like 2 days later. She's in the car, and her and Teresa, like, you know, her doppelganger, are like on the phone. And Teresa's just like, I just want to make sure, like, how are you doing? Like, are you all right? Like, what's going on? And she's like, Teresa, this is so painful. He even told me that I would be happy with this. How could I be happy? And Teresa's like, yeah, how can you be happy? Like, you don't want the divorce. So she just starts crying again on the phone with Teresa. She's like, Teresa's like, you don't understand. Like, this is, I can't. I can't. And I said, oh my God, girl. I said, girl, this is messy. And so later that day, we see all the women, and I think they're actually at Alexia's apartment, and they're just like, girl, what's going on? Like, everybody is trying to understand, like, what happened. And so Alexia was like, I was blindsided. And everyone's like, really? And she was like, I had no inkling that, like, he wanted a divorce. She, I guess, explained to them the same story that she told Julia and them, because everybody's eyes were, like, all big, like, oh my gosh. So then you hear Larsa asks, not Julia, asks Alexia, do you think you guys can work it out? And you got Gertie being like, no, I'm with her. No, ma'am. No, ma'am. So she was like, you know, I don't know. She was like, I wanted my happily ever after. That's all I wanted. And for him to do this, and she started crying once again. Oh my God. And she's just like, I can't believe this. I can't believe it. She was like, it's like every time I'm happy, something bad happens. And I said, oh, that kind of is true. She was like, I don't even want to be happy anymore. And I said, oh my gosh. I hope Alexia need to be in therapy. If she was in therapy, maybe she wouldn't be messing around with Todd right about now. And so everyone's just like, oh my gosh. Then you got, and see, this is why, Adriana, I did not believe you when you said, I wish this wouldn't have happened. You know, I wish I was wrong about this one thing. Because like, she's sitting on the opposite end of the couch drinking champagne, being like, a lot of things make sense now. I said, Adriana, you ain't no good. You ain't no good. And she was, oh my God. I said, oh my gosh. So everyone's hugging her, and they're like, group hug, it's gonna be okay. And then we finally like really open up the like season with it being like, I guess now like later in the year, because I think they officially started filming like in June. Like for real, in June. And so we get this scene of Marisol and Alexia meeting up at this really nice restaurant. So like I said, we get this scene with Alexia and Marisol at this restaurant. We find out that later on, Lisa is going to be joining them. So pretty much they sit down, you know, they're like, hey girl, how you been? Da, whatever. And so Marisol's like, before Lisa get here, we need to talk about her right quick. So we find out, they flash across the screen a headline about Lenny breaking up with the mistress, like calling off the engagement. That was back in September of 2024. I think present time now in 2025, they're still together, because I do remember seeing a video of him re-proposing to her, which I thought was the first proposal, because I never knew that they were engaged beforehand. So I think they're still together. And so at this time, Marisol is just worried. She was like, I feel like this is a trap for Lisa, and I don't want her to go back to that man. Alexia is like, I don't think she would go back. Like, she over him, and she's so madly in love with Jody. To be honest, if Jody wasn't there, I definitely feel like Lisa would entertain the idea and possibly go back to Lenny for the time being until she found somebody else to be her like benefactor, if you ask me. Because I'm like, Lisa really, like, she's male-centered as well, but Lisa does not really want to take care of herself, to be honest. Same with Alexia, but it's just kind of like, I definitely could see her going back to Lenny. Like, it would not shock me. It really wouldn't. So, Marisol's just like, I'm really worried about her. So then the conversation shifts, because then Marisol was like, I'm kind of irritated with you. And Alexia's like, why are you mad at me? She was like, because why did I have to figure out that you and Todd were, messing around with each other? Like, why didn't you tell me? Why did I figure it out in the press? And all Alexia could do was just look forward and be like, oh, girl, we really gonna have to talk about this. And so they flash across the screen again, another headline saying that like Alexia and Ty went on like this this weekend getaway or something like that, and they were like all over each other, like posting pictures and stuff like that. So Marisol's like, girl, what's going on with that? Alexia says it wasn't like she was hesitant to talk about it, because she was like, we didn't tell anybody. And she's like, I'm not embarrassed. I don't believe that. I do think Alexia is embarrassed that she's still messing with that man. But she was just like, I'm still in love with Todd. So then Marisol in her confession was like, this is bad. Mind you, whoever did Marisol's like rejuvenation to her face looks amazing. Mama's face, I said, girl, you looking refreshed. You're looking good. So she was like, this is bad. But also she was like, I can't really tell her not to be with him. She was like, I don't want this for her. But she was just like, she a grown adult. Like, I don't know how much I can tell her not to do it, and this is her life. So Alexia just keeps reiterating that, like, she's not embarrassed and, like, she's in love with him. But to be honest, it just really gives that Alexia is messing with him to pay her bills. That's what it gives me, because I'm just kind of like, I don't know how you could be with a man that played in your face that badly. I know for myself, I couldn't, because I would not be able to trust you. Like, that is very, like jarring to come home, the person that you've been with, you've been talking every day, like, y'all been kicking it, they just up and leave, they take all of their stuff. That would make me question everything about our relationship, because that means you've been lying, because why would you just take all your stuff and leave and not say anything? And so I wouldn't be able to ever look at Todd the same way, especially doing that in front of Frankie. Like, that was probably scaring him and stressing him out, like he not knowing what's going on. It's like, you don't do that to people. So I don't know why she's with him, other than I feel like Alexia does have deep feelings for Todd, but also she need that man to take care of her, because there's no way. So next thing you know, Lisa gets there. And when I tell you, Lisa plays such a good trick on us and the view, because I didn't think she was playing. Girls end up asking her, like, how are you? And she was like, I heard the news. I'm okay. She was like, Lenny reached out to me. And they're like, okay, so what's going on? And she was like, he's kind of been asking to get back together with me. And the way Marisol and Alexia reacted, they both was like, girl, don't you do it. They was like, no, they was like, no. She was like, well, you guys, I have kids to think about. And Alexia was like, Lisa, you have a daughter. Do you want your daughter to see this? Lisa, no. And then she starts smiling, and she's like, I'm playing. And they're like, girl, like, why would you do that? And then Marisol was like, girl, you ruined my buzz. You ruined you know how irritated you have to be for somebody to ruin your buzz. She was just like, girl, like, don't play like that. So Lisa ends up saying in her confessional, she would never get back with Lenny. Like, she would rather there be like this ugly naked picture of her out and for everyone to see than be with Lenny. And she was like, for some people they might think that's not a big deal, but for me, like, I would be mortified. So she's like, no, I'm happy where I'm at, you know. No, ma'am. So they're all like sitting and talking, and then they start, like, Lisa ends up asking Alexia about the whole Todd situation. Like, she's like, girl, what's going on with that? Because I hear you, I'm seeing y'all in the press together, and Alexia basically says the same thing. Like, I'm still in love with him. She was like, I also feel like he didn't realize what, like, us breaking up was going to be like. Like, he is starting to realize that he can't do this without me. So, like, I think there's an opportunity. But then Marisol basically says, just because it's right for your whole don't mean it's right for your soul. I think that's the phrase. And they started laughing. But like I said, girl, put that on a t-shirt, because she not lying. Just because it feels, basically what it boils down to is just because it feels good in that moment doesn't mean that it's what you need. Because, girl, you could be sleeping with Todd, but that doesn't mean everybody need to know. Like, there was ways that you could do this on the low, which makes me feel like she really does care about him, because she's still, like, flaunting him around like he's, like, some sort of prize. When I'm like, well, girl, this is messy. This is messy. So then Lisa lets them know that she's going to have a Hollywood-themed birthday party for Jody, and everybody's invited. So then Alexia ends up asking her, well, are you inviting Marcus? And Lisa's like, no. So then another, headline flashes across the screen talking about Larsa and Marcus breaking up and calling it quits. And so Marisol and Alexia basically tell Lisa, girl, Larsa is angry with you. Like, she's upset with you. And Lisa's like, I know, but I didn't do anything wrong. And they're like, more so Alexia. Alexia feels like, no, girl, like, you messed up. Like, I understand why Larsa is mad at you. So Lisa's like, no, let me explain. So basically, she says that her and Jody went to this restaurant. Marcus was there with his friends. I guess Marcus and Jody might have mutual friends, and they had called them over to the table. Marcus pulled out his phone, took a picture with them, and like uploaded it. And so Larsa ends up texting Lisa, getting real out of pocket, basically telling her, girl, that's fine. I'll just go hang out with Lenny and his new girlfriend, since it's cool. Everybody could just be friends all of a sudden. And then she was like, Larsa even was like in the text messages, like, clearly you don't understand loyalty. Like, are you serious? Like, you're not a real friend. And so Lisa was like, she shouldn't have been talking to me like that. And Marisol was like, girl, you know how Larsa gets down. Because then Lisa ends up saying, she told me that she was going to go hang out with Lenny and his new girl. And Marisol was like, Larsa is pretty much vindictive. She mean like that. And also, she not going to do that. She just said that to hurt you. Like, how she get down. And Lisa was like, I don't have a problem apologizing if I did something wrong, but I didn't do anything wrong. So then Alexia ends up asking her, are you still following Marcus? And you could tell that, like, Lisa is, because she didn't, like, she hesitated. She was like, well, and I first I felt like this was extremely childish until Alexia ends up saying, well, you told us all to unfollow Lenny. So if you can make declarations and demands to your friends saying unfollow your ex-husband, and Alexia makes it plain, I ain't never followed that man. But she was like, if you can do that, then why can't you do that for Larsa? And I think that's fair. Like, I know a lot of people don't like Larsa. I know she a gutter snipe and all of that stuff, but I don't think you can ask somebody to do something, they do it, and then when they ask you to do it, you don't want to do it. Like, that's not fair. That's not how I would want my friendship to get down, okay? And so it just makes me feel like Lisa is only following Marcus because of his last name, because he's a Jordan. Because if this was any other random black man that Larsa was humping on at the time, she would dump him. Like, she would not follow him. She wouldn't care. She would not care. So they're just kind of like, girl, you should unfollow him and you need to talk to Larsa. Just unfollow him and talk to Larsa. So we then get to Julia and Martina's house. We find out that they are adopting 2 boys. They're black. And the only reason why I say that they're black is because when they panned into like the play crib, there was a black doll, and white people never buy their children black dolls. They don't. they they don't. So I was like, oh, so y'all getting two black little kids. I have my thoughts about that, but I'm gonna keep it to myself right about now. Pretty much Julia was just like, it's crazy that I'm finally getting what I wanted. These two beautiful kids that I wanted to take care of. Like, I've been begging Martina for this to happen, and we finally happened. And now that Martina is cancer free, we're able to take this journey or this leap for our family. So she's ecstatic. They're like baby proofing the house and everything. And we find out before I go into it, I am actually really surprised that they were able to get such young children to adopt. And the reason why I say that is, as many reality shows and even documentaries that I have watched when it comes to people doing adoptions, there are so many restrictions, especially depending on what countries you adopt from. And even here in the US, like, I think I was watching My Big Fat Fabulous Life on TLC, and she was thinking about adopting, and because of her BMI was so big, they were like, you would opt out of like all of these countries. And it was like a list of countries that was like, if your BMI is over like a certain number, they will not give you children, because they say that to them that is a showcase of an unhealthy lifestyle. And I was like, dang. So I'm just, and even some countries have like age requirements. You can't be adopting past a certain age. Julia's 52, Martina's 68. So I'm like, these kids either must have been really in some dire straits and really needed to be taken care of, which I'm happy they're being housed in it seems like a very warm and inviting home. But it's interesting that they were able to get those children, because most adoption agencies will not give like infants and like toddlers to people that old. Like, it's normally the reverse. Normally it's like high school kids, middle school kids will be gifted to the older adults, and then younger children will be gifted to young adults. So I was surprised. So Martina ends up asking her, so did you tell everybody about, like, how did the women take the news about what we're doing? And she said she told them on a Zoom call. They actually showed us a flashback. Everybody's on the call except for Gertie and Kiki. Kiki couldn't get on the call because, unfortunately, her daughter dropped her phone in the toilet, so she probably had to get a new phone. And then Gertie was on the link, but unfortunately, she dropped out. Like, she got dropped out, and so she was trying to get back in, and she kept saying, like, please send me the link. Like, I can't get back in. So Julia just continued doing the Zoom call without Gertie being on there. So she was just like, I told the ladies, Gertie couldn't get back on because, she kept dropping out, but then my hands were full, so I couldn't help her get back on. So I basically, told her, we'll talk about it later. So then I guess she saw it in the press, and she texted me back, congrats, which to me was like very like cold. And so Martina was like, well, yeah, that wasn't very warm. So then in the confessional, Julia has the nerve to be like, Gertie has been moving or showing me things that have caused me to kind of take a step back and like reevaluate our friendship. And I said, if she was asking for the Zoom link, then why not give it to her? On top of that, we later on find out that Julia was late. My bad, y'all. She was late. She said she was only a couple of minutes late, but I feel like, girl, you weren't like an hour late, but you were probably at least a good 20 to 30 minutes late, because I didn't want her to be a part of the Zoom call. Because if she's asking you, hey, send me the link, you should have sent her the link. Like what are we doing? What are we doing? So we end up having two scenes kind of mixed together. We have Larsa and her mom having a conversation, and then we have Lisa and Jody. So Lisa and Jody are in this, I think it's an apartment, but it's 6 bedrooms. It has a terrace, and it's 6,000 square feet, and it's $32,000 in rent, like monthly. And I said, oh, Jody got money. I don't know if it's clean money, but he got money to be paying $32,000 a month. And my thing about it is, it's too white in there. I'm like, and when I think about like a lot of white in a house, it reminds me of the doctor's office. So it feels sterile. So Lisa constantly saying like, oh, it's homey. I was like, nothing about this house gives homey vibes. But even her house that she had with Lenny that was on Star Island wasn't very homey. I was like, there's nothing about this house that feels like inviting. Whereas when you look at like Adriana's or Marisol's place, or even Larsa's apartment, it gives like people live here. Like this is somebody's home. It feels weird because I don't know if Lisa just doesn't have like, I don't want to say an identity, but it doesn't seem like she has like a style. Like it's very like whatever she sees online, that's kind of like what she copies. Cause I was like, girl, this does not feel homey. I think she also kind of offended Jody because she was trying to say that she really liked this place more than the house in Star Island and how this was smaller, but it was homey. And he was like, girl, you have a terrace that's about the same size of this place. This house is not, it's not small. And I was like, well, I mean, he got a point. It's 6 bedrooms, but I was just like, yeah, I kind of got, like, if he was offended, I kind of got where he was coming from, but I don't think Lisa was trying to do that. I think she was just trying to big him up and be like, well, but this is better, you know? So they sit down. She, like, cooks him breakfast. They're, like, in the kitchen. And so she proceeds to ask him about his birthday. And she's like, so what do you want to do for your birthday? Like, do you want to, like, who all do you want to invite? Like, we're having this Hollywood themed birthday party. And she was, Jody just was like, I really want my friends to be there, not just your friends. And she's like, okay. So then Lisa's like, what about Marcus? And he was like, I don't want no drama, so we're not going to invite him. We also find out that it looks like Lenny and Lisa worked out a custody agreement. So they have 50-50 custody. Lisa talks about how it's weird being at the house without her kids because she's so hands-on. And I'm be honest, I don't believe that. I feel like, I think we saw the season 4 and 5 that Lisa had like at least like 2 nannies per child, or at least like 2 nannies for like one for each child. And I'm not saying like the nannies did most of the work, but I'm just like, it seems like those kids listen to the nannies because they do not listen to Lisa. They give us a flashback, and I was like, this is very chaotic. That's why when Larsa says her whole thing about like, you can't control a man whose dick you suck every night, I was like, she can't control her kids, so I don't know why you think she could control Jody. And I'm not saying she needs to be mean towards her children, but it's like, it doesn't seem like they respect her. Because we see the flashback, they're arguing and screaming, and Jody's like, hey, no fighting. And I'm like, are the little boy and the girl always fighting? Like, it's a lot. I said, and Lisa was trying to act like she was so hurt that the kids weren't there, but I was like, no, girl, I know you happy, because I would be happy, because your house would be quiet at least. So I was like, okay, girl. So like I said, they basically said they're not going to invite Marcus because they don't want any drama. The scene then flips to being at Larsa's house. We see that her mom's in town. She was like, my mom still lives in Chicago, where I'm from. She also explains that when her mom comes to stay, she stays for like at least 2 months, and she loves that because she always is cooking. She explains that her mom is like very old school. They don't talk about anything. Like, they keep their issues under wraps. So she was like, she's never really heard her mom say anything bad about her dad. So I wonder if her parents are like divorced or separated. She also brings up her situation with Marcus. And before I get into that, I wish Larsa would have never really touched her face, because when they showed the flashback pictures, and it was one picture in particular of her and her mom, she has such a beautiful face. I was like, girl, you could have tweaked your body, got the BBLs, got the breasts and all of that done, but you should have left your face alone, because you would have aged probably so gracefully. It's just crazy. So Larsa and sits down at like the kitchen island, and she's just talking to her mom about Marcus, and she was just like, she doesn't understand why he's being the way that he's being. She actually gets really emotional in the confessional, and she cries to her mom. She was like, she's actually really embarrassed, because she was like, this is the person that I thought I was gonna be with. Like, I really thought that we were going to be something. She said, unfortunately, our lifestyles didn't align anymore. And they're hinting at him, doing the snow, going on the ski slopes. And she also talked about how like he would love to party at the clubs until the lights came on. And she's like, I'm just not into that lifestyle anymore. So she starts crying. She says ultimately she realized that she had to let the relationship go because of her kids, because her kids was like, y'all breaking up to make up, that's not healthy. And she was like, once I realized that it was affecting my kids, I was like, yeah, I gotta make a decision, and I have to stop. And a lot of people didn't feel like Larsa's tears were real. I don't know. I don't know if the tears were real, but I do think she genuinely she's genuinely sad about breaking up with Marcus. And the only reason why I say that is like, while she was sitting down with her mom, she was like messing with the corkscrew that you have in a wine bottle. And honestly, it reminded me of like me when I'm like trying my best not to cry or get upset, and I just start, you get fidgety. And she was breaking it apart to kind of like distract herself. And then when her mom was like, Larsa, it's okay, she just immediately started crying again. And I was like, yeah, I think these tears are real. Not saying that everything is real with Larsa, because she a gutter snipe, we know. But I think in this moment, she really is embarrassed at the fact that her and Marcus didn't work out, because all of us were gagged that she was with him, because we know the history of Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen. But I also feel like she's surprised by his behavior online, because they do show the text messages of someone being like, oh, not text messages, him on Instagram talking badly about her. Somebody in his comment section was like, where's Larsa? And Marcus responded by like, I sent her back, basically, and he put a street emoji. Then somebody was like, oh, you should go get your girl back. And he was like, nah, I'm good. And I was like, ooh, okay, girl. So she gets so worked up that she actually like walks out of the confessional to like get herself together. And then she tells her mom, she's like, that's why I'm so mad at Lisa, is because like, here's this person that I'm trying to move on from that's talking so negatively and disparagingly about me, and you still want to be cool with him. Like, that's crazy to me. And so the scene flips back to Jody and Lisa. And Lisa basically saying, like, Larsa and him are always breaking up to make up, and Miami's a really small place. And I didn't want to burn any bridges, like we would, like, what if we unfollowed him and next thing you know, they get back together? She was like, there's going to be a point in which they're both going to be in the same room at the same time, and they just need to be adults about it and move on. And I was like, well, Lisa, the same thing could be said about you and Lenny. Y'all are adults, get over it and move on. And I don't think that, here's the thing. I think both of them are being childish, but I'm leaning more over to Larsa's side. But I also do think that Larsa's delivery and how she conveys her emotions and communicates them is trash. It's trash. And I do think at the end of the episode, Lisa had every right to kick Larsa out the house, because you ain't gonna be calling me out my name several times and I don't check you. But I also feel like Lisa's not being a good friend, because it's like, you asked of them to unfollow that man and they did it. They anytime they're asking about Lenny, they dog him. But when you have the opportunity to do the same and show your loyalty to Larsa, you're not doing that. And I do think that's messed up. So next thing you know, while Jody and Lisa are sitting at the kitchen table, she gets a text message from her brother. And she was like, I don't know what this means. We find out that Lisa actually reconnected with her father, which I'm going to be honest. I was so surprised that he was white. And I think I just assumed, because her mom, when we met her mom that one season, I think it was like season 5, she gave like Indian Jamaican to me, or at least like black Jamaican, or maybe mixed with something else, but she definitely was Jamaican. And I think I just assumed that the dad was a black man, but come to find out, he a whole Canadian. Like, I mean, we knew they were Canadian, but he's a whole white man. So I was like, oh, okay. So she reconnected with him. She actually went up to Toronto, brought her kids. Her daughter actually got a chance to meet her father. So I guess that means Logan has already met him before, but maybe he was a lot younger. She was like, her dad had like a really bad drinking problem and it was very hard. So she left like, and we know this story because last season when Nicole and Lisa had a conversation and they actually show that flashback, we found out that Lisa has always been taken care of by her significant others. When she was 16, she left her house because she couldn't deal with an alcoholic father and him mistreating her mom and her family. And so she went and lived with her boyfriend and his family. They lived together. She broke up. I think that's when she moved here to America. And then she started dating a guy. So it's like Lisa's never really been single or on her own. A man has always taken care of her. So I wonder if reconnecting with her father will help her heal something in her. But I do think it's sad that unfortunately they're reconnecting about a month after that. He has a stroke and he's in the hospital and they're trying to figure out, can he breathe on his own? So Lisa basically says that, I had to forgive my parents. They're my parents, and you have to realize that they make mistakes and you just have to forgive. And I'm like, you don't really have to forgive your parents. You don't. You don't have to forgive anyone, to be honest. But that's why they always say forgiveness is for you. It shouldn't be for the person that wronged you. It should be for you in order to close that chapter and move forward. But that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to do that. And so I was kind of like, yeah, I get what you're trying to say, Lisa, but no. So then the next scene we have is of Gertie, Adriana, and Kiki. They on a yacht. And girl, Kiki is that girl. Because we find out that Kiki used to date the owner of the yacht, like the Miami Yacht Club. And when Gertie got on the yacht, she was pointing, like Kiki was explaining to her what boat she has been on that's in the harbor. And Gertie was like, girl, so you just be on yachts? And she was like, well, yeah. And she was like, yeah, I used to date him, but he still allows me to get on yachts and have a good time. And producers end up asking Kiki, so, like, y'all talking? Like, what's going on? And she was like, no, like, he still just likes me. And so I get to get on the yachts. And I said, girl, you that girl. You that girl, Miss Kiki with the bob. We also find out, which we never knew, which I didn't know, and I don't think anybody else knew, that Kiki is a mother of two. She has an 18-year-old son who is going off to college. And then we all remember her daughter. And it looked like her mom is living with her, or maybe that was like a relative, because they show like a family picture and there was an older lady in the picture and she kind of looked like Kiki, or Kiki kind of looks like her. And I assumed that maybe that was her mother or maybe an aunt or somebody. But I was actually surprised that she had an 18-year-old son. Like, Kiki looked good, but I was just like, oh, I wonder if she just didn't. No, she did tell us she had a son. She did. When her and Lisa got into it last season, she talked about being a mom and having to, yeah, she did tell us. I don't know. I just didn't assume that the little boy was 18 years old. I was like, wow, okay. So we also get time with Gertie. We find out that she's had like 6 surgeries. She's still doing chemo and all of that stuff with the cancer, but she's just like, she is coming, I think she's finally like coming to terms with the fact that, like, yes, girl, you got cancer and it is something that is going to always impact your life, you know? I told y'all, Gertie get on my nerves. She's just very obnoxious. Even when she was talking to Kiki and she was like, oh, you gotten skinny, I gotten fat. And Kiki's trying to encourage her and be like, but girl, your body looks amazing, which it does. Gertie has a beautiful body. A beautiful body. And she was like, but do you see this? Do you see? I was like, yeah, I don't like when people do that, because I'm like, girl, what do you want me to say? You fat? like what do you, because I'm not going to say that. I'm not going to tell you that. But I'd be like, you have a beautiful body. I hate her confessional. Whoever told Gertie to spray paint her bald head metallic and put on this, you're horrible. And get away from her. Get away from her. So, you know, we also see her have a conversation with Russell where she just talks about not wanting him to look at her in the sense of having to like take care of her. And he being Russell, because, you know, he loved Gertie down. He's like, I don't look at you that way. And Gertie's like, you say that, but, and I mean, I get where she was coming from. Like, I don't want you to, what's the word? Fall out of love with me because you feel like you have to take care of me and you're a caregiver. I want you to know that, like, I'm still your wife. I'm still fine as hell, okay? Cancer and all. And I need you to want all of this, okay? But I think they'll be okay. I do. I mean, I'm normally not here for people who've been together since high school because I'm like, you should explore your options. But Russell and Gertie seems like the type of couple that has grown together and really, truly love each other. Like, some people are meant to be together forever. Like, you know, you just lucked up and found a person that was like, you know, y'all was destined to be. And it seems like now if they would get a divorce, I would be sad. Like, I would actually be very shocked because it does seem like they really, really love one another. Okay. So the conversation continues where the girls are asking Adriana, so girl, what's tea? Since you knew that they were already like having issues, like what's going on? And Adriana basically doesn't know anything, but she does say something in her confessional that I thought was interesting where she was like, she understands what Alexia and Todd are doing because she was like, in Latin culture, they are taught to just, you know, forgive their men maybe one too many times. And I feel like that's any culture. Like, we live in a patriarchal society where women are just taught like that's just what men do because he's a man, and it's like, nah, he's trash. that's what he is, and we should move on from him. But she ends up saying that, you know, I hope, she was like, I'm not trying to get into it with Alexia. I hope she knows that I'm here if she needs to talk to me because I've been in her place and been on the other side. And Gertie was like, girl, you'll probably be the last person she want to talk to, but it's nice that you care. I was like, yeah, Adriana, if I was her, I wouldn't speak to you either. So we move on and we have this sit down between Larsa and Alexia where they're just catching up. And basically, Larsa is asking Alexia, like, girl, what's going on with you and Todd? Like, what's going on with you and Todd? Like, last time I thought y'all was done. Like, what's up? And Alexia basically says, you're not single until your heart is singled, you know? And Larsa is like, girl, what is wrong? Like, what the hell going on? Because he played in your face. What do you mean you're not single until your heart is single? She was like, don't you think like he had like it's too much? Like, Larsa was really like, this too much. So then Alexia ends up asking Larsa, well, how do you cut him off? Like, how do you just let your heart go? Because she's like, you and Marcus were really in love and like you were able to just break it off. And she basically was like, I was just done. She said, I would have not excused red flags. And so they flash back to last season when Julia asked Larsa about Marcus touching somebody's butt. And it also makes sense why Larsa had an attitude with Julia and was feeling like really defensive. And then when Julia was like, I think Larsa thinks Marcus wants me or has a thing for me, they were having some issues about that last season. And because it seems like Marcus wasn't really faithful to Larsa. And so she was just like, it was just too much. And then that's when Alexia brings up the Olympic picture. Girl, I was gagged when they posted it on the screen. I said, oh, so we doing this. And here's the thing. I think Larsa knew that Marcus likes to play in the snow. I think she knew, or play in the AC. But I think she was okay with it because it seemed like maybe he was doing it recreationally. Like, we all got like friends and family members who might, smoke a little something, and I mean weed, okay? And they still having productive lives. They're not really, they just smoking to take the edge off. Versus like knowing people who own like, the snow. And Larsa just keeps being like, our lifestyles weren't the same. And I think she actually was embarrassed with that picture, the Olympic picture. Because I feel like at that point, Marcus had reached a level of where he didn't care. Because you can't tell me it's the Olympics. There's cameras everywhere. There's live news feeds everywhere because there's so many events going on at once that you thought it was okay to just be out in the open beside a pool eating fruit and waffles and toast and sniffing snow. And like the people around you were just cool with it, which means you do it consistently. And I think that contributed. It's like, not only are you probably cheating on me, now you are embarrassing me to the point where you getting caught up like this. And people probably assuming that I get down like that and I don't. And she was like, that's just not it. Okay. So then she was like, also Marcus started like threatening her in text messages. One of them was like, I'm gonna get you back, like I don't care how this looks or something like that. He's also been messaging her friends and stuff, and so she was like, it just got to a point where it's too much, and she basically blocked him on everything. And she was like, that's what's pissing her off about Lisa, is like, girl, you know what I'm going through, and if you cared enough about me, you would do these things that I'm asking you to do. She also brings up how, like, girl, I testified with you. With the whole Lenny situation, you called me and I testified under oath for you. When Larsa said that, I said, oh, okay. Because I'm not going to lie. If I testify for you and I ask you to do something for me, girl, do it. Like, because Larsa didn't have to testify for Lisa. She didn't. She could have just let Lisa deal with her situation on her own. So if I was her, I would be irritated too. I would. So it's time for Jody's birthday. Honestly, I wish they would have had his birthday in a different location. Even though their apartment is 6,000 square feet, the party like looked claustrophobic. Everybody felt like all up on each other, especially when they had the I guess it's like a steak station. I remember seeing it in Real Housewives of New Jersey, where you take shots out of the bone marrow, or you do shot tricks with it. But it was just like that didn't go with a Hollywood glam themed birthday. I guess Lisa wanted to be Marilyn Monroe because she wore all white, and then when she changed outfits, it wasn't the same as, Marilyn Monroe's like iconic like white dress, but it was something similar to it. She should have got Gertie to help her, because I was like, girl, this is like a kind of a lame party. Okay. So the first people to get there is Adriana and her boyfriend, or her, I won't say boyfriend, her new man, Amari. We find out that he's French and he is part of French aristocracy. He's a marquis. So she all over him. For Adriana, he is like her speed. Like, I didn't think he was that attractive, but I was like, I could see how somebody like her could find him like, tall, dark, and handsome, okay? And you could tell that she was so excited to have him on her arm, because she was in the confessional cheesing hard as hell, talking about everybody wanted a piece. No, girl, you was the only one wanting a piece, because the way that she was sucking face with him on the couch while everybody was around, and then asking him in French, can I F you? And how many times can I do it? And I think at first they were like being jokey about 6. And then she said, what about 10? And he was like, then we ain't gonna get nothing done for the rest of the day. I said, Adriana, stop with the desperation. You too pretty for that. For Adriana to be in her 60s, I think she's 59. No, I think she's 59. She's beautiful. When I think about all the women who are 60, like in their 60s or about to be 60, that's a housewives, like Adriana is one of the top tier girls. Her and Karen, bad as hell to be like, and they, woo. And even evil ass Ramona. I was so surprised when I found out Ramona was in her 60s. I always assumed she was in her 50s. So, but now, she looking like it because that racism is rotting her skin. Okay. But I was just like, you're too pretty to be doing all of this. And I mean, and it would be different if they was at the house. If they was at home and she was giving all of, you're at home. You are in public. Sometimes certain PDA is not appropriate for the public, all right? So they get there first. Then we see Alexia, Martina, and Julia get there. And Lisa is excited to introduce Alexia to one of Jody's friends that, like, is single. And Alexia ends up being like, well, what about Kiki? Because Lisa ends up saying, oh, the guy's like 6'4". And Alexia is like, well, Kiki's like she's like very tall. And, I'm married. And everyone's just like, you're going through a divorce, Alexia. Like, they're like, okay, girl, whatever. So we then get this awkward interaction between Julia and Adriana, Martina, and Amari, because Julia's like, oh, so this is where you've been hiding, because I haven't heard from you. So we find out in their confessionals that Julia ends up saying her and Adriana have kind of been distant with each other. And she was just like, she doesn't really know what's going on. Adriana says in her confessional that when Julia decided to get closer to Alexia and Marisol, she pulled back. And honestly, it's slightly childish to me, because I'm just like, if Julia's not talking bad about you with them, then it's not that deep. But then when you think about the history that Alexia, Marisol, and Adriana have, I understand. Because they on each side have said some pretty nasty things to each other. It's fault on both sides. And I can understand Adriana being like, girl, you've seen the way they've treated me. You've seen the way that they have been towards me. Why do you want to be friends with them? But I knew this was going to happen, because I remember I reported on it like a while ago. It has to be like at least a year or two ago, where it was either after BravoCon Fan Fest. No, not Fan Fest, BravoCon, I think. So that was 2023. It was Julia, Adriana, Kiki, and Alexia. They had just gotten back and they were arguing at the Miami airport. Mainly it was Alexia and Adriana. And Kiki was trying to get them to calm down, because she was like, y'all, we in public. But she was like, Julia, this is who you want to be friends with? Somebody that treats me such a way? And I was like, yeah, they're not going to be friends for long, because Adriana is not going to be able to deal with the fact that she's cool with them. And I kind of don't blame her, because every time someone has come at Julia, Adriana has stood up for her. Like, she's the first one and the main one in the line of fire for her. So I can understand her frustrations. Then we end up seeing Gertie get there. Gertie, I don't know what you had on. No. Like, I think she was trying to be a sexy flapper, because she had the hair that reminded me of that, and the little piece, like the headpiece. But it was like, girl, they was not wearing see-through like lace cat suits or or dresses in the 20s, in the 1920s. I said, girl, and I mean, Gertie's body is beautiful. Like I keep telling y'all, banging body. But girl, that wig, you are better off coming bald, because that wig was a fool, Gertie. It looked dried out, and I don't know if it was synthetic or human. Either way, it looked dry as hell. Okay, so she comes in, she tries to say hello the same way that Adriana said hello and congratulated Julia and Martina about the adoption. Gertie's trying to do the same, and they are like so standoffish and cold towards her. She's like, hey, and Martina's just like, hey, and she was like, hey, like they were so rude, and she caught the hint. So Gertie just kind of walked away. She was just like, I like bet. And I was just like, oh my gosh. And then you hear Julia be like, I can't take the fakeness. And I'm like, she said hello to you. And honestly, when you look at the text messages, you didn't say nothing back. You get mad at her saying congrats to you, but you responded back to her saying thank you. So how would she know that y'all have beef unless you ain't said nothing? So it is giving very much Julia just wants an issue with Gertie because she ain't got shit else going on. Because I do not believe she wants to film her process of getting to know these children, which I respect, because like, they're babies, they're not your kids, they're your adopted kids, and you have to bond with them. But it's just like, to cause an issue with Gertie where there is none is annoying. Like it's so disingenuous and it's so annoying. So Marisol gets there. Her husband looked like he don't want to be there, and I understand. He don't know none of these people, okay? He probably would have had a good time if Gertie would have showed up with Russell, because oftentimes, the husbands hang out with each other, but it doesn't seem like he wanted to be around any of Jody's people. So we see Larsa get there, because everyone's like, where's Larsa? Larsa and Lisa have like this awkward interaction, and she ends up hugging Marisol, and she's like, did she say anything about me? Like, because I'm a little scared. Like, what has she been saying? So then they were like, no, you guys need to have a conversation. So they tried to have a conversation, and basically Lisa lies about not getting Larsa's calls, and I would have respected it more if Lisa would have been like, after the way you talked to me during the text messages, I ain't want to talk to you no more. But she tries to act like, oh girl, I'm drunk. That's why I don't remember, because she keeps being like, well, no, I don't remember you calling, but maybe you did, but like, I don't remember, but like, but you should have called me. And Larsa's like, I did call you. So like, it was pointless. It was so pointless. Kiki is like, girl, so what happened? Like, did y'all get anywhere in that conversation? And she was like, no, because she's drunk. And Kiki was like, already? Like, we ain't even been here that long. So we then have Jody and Larsa having a conversation, which I thought was inappropriate. I don't know why Larsa felt the need to talk to Jody. I get you upset and frustrated that he hanging out with Marcus and stuff like that, but that's not your man. Y'all are not friends like that. So I don't know why you feel the need to like press him. And Jody was acting stupid, like he didn't understand what was going on, because Larsa was like, have you seen the things that Marcus has been saying about me in the press? No. But then again, I think he was in the snow by that moment, okay? Because she starts off the conversation with being like, so I think Lisa's a poor communicator. Lisa? Eyes getting bugged out. And I said, oh my God, what's going on here, Jody? What is going on here? And then they didn't get anywhere. So then Larsa says in her confessional, I think Jody cares more about my ex's name instead of who he is as a person. I said, of course. So while Larsa was talking to Jody, Lisa was changing into another outfit. So then the girls are sitting down, just talking and kicking it. And so it's awkward. And I kind of felt bad for Gertie, because you can tell that Nicole was Gertie's in the group, in the sense of like, Gertie felt comfortable going to these like group events when Nicole was right beside her. And I also feel like without Nicole, the newbies group is kind of falling apart, because to me, she was the glue for the group. Okay. So Gertie is like, I don't understand. Like, I kind of feel like I'm left out. And she's trying to have a conversation with Martina. And she's like, well, I don't understand. I think this is about the Zoom call. Like, I got kicked out. And she's trying to explain herself to Martina, which I was like, you don't need to explain nothing to that crip keeping looking lady. Okay. But she was just like, but I couldn't get back in and stuff like that. And Martina's kind of being nasty towards her. Julia's just glaring at her. And what we find out is that Gertie had work. She was like, girl, I tried to get into the call. Julia was late and she never sent me the link. And then when I asked her, she basically told me to go fetch the information and it's out there now. So I sent her congrats. And I was like, girl, you better than me, because I would have just gave her like a thumbs up and called it a day. Because what you mean go fetch? If we really supposed to be friends and you got an issue, then call me and let me know we have an issue. So Martina gets up and she's like, that I don't know what's going on. Julia told me about it, but y'all need to talk. Y'all just need. But I'm like, this is rude. This is rude as hell. But shouts out to Gertie, because Gertie basically posted the text message conversation. And this is what she said. She posted it in her Insta story. She said, mind you, she never told me the news by text or by phone. So literally made me fetch the information. After Googling it, I still said congrats. So you have Gertie saying, hey, are you sending a new link? Never worked when I tried it 3 times. Julia responds by saying, hi, sorry, my friend. I don't know what went wrong. We only had one link that everybody stayed on. Sorry you couldn't get in. I had something amazing to tell you guys at the same time. Now it's out there. No, now it's out and have been publicly announced. Talk to you soon. Hope you're feeling better after your surgery and will recover fast. So then Gertie responded by saying, oh, okay, so I guess I'll look online for the announcement. And she put like question marks like, really, girl? And she said, Kay. She said, you will understand. So Julia responded by saying, you will understand when you read. My hands are literally full right now. So I'm dictating this message, but we'll talk to you soon, XXX. So then Gertie responded by saying congrats, and Julia said thank you, hope you're feeling better. So you know she had surgery, you know she got work, and instead of you just being real and being like, hey, we're adopting 2 boys, which was so simple, now you trying to make this an issue. You're a weirdo. So pretty much nothing really happens. So Martina leaves, and then we have the argument that transpires between Lisa and Larsa, because Lisa's like, she feels like Karma is finally, getting Lenny, him and his girl broke up, and now she's feeling happy and free. And so Larsa said, well, now that you're feeling happy and free, don't forget about your friends who have been there since the beginning when you weren't happy and free. So then they start arguing about the situation. While they're arguing, we end up seeing Jody say something about going to get some AC, talking about, oh yeah, the AC is good in here. Him and some man go into some room, and then he's like, yo, it's good, right? And he was like, yeah. And I said, what y'all doing in there? Marcus and Jody are friends because they got the same dealer, and you ain't gonna tell me nothing else. Larsa is basically trying to chastise Lisa for not checking Jody for hanging out with Marcus. And she's like, girl, do you not think that Marcus is gonna tell me what y'all do? That's what he does. She also brings up how she's like, why are you okay with this? So Lisa's like, I can't control him. He's a grown man. And so that's when Larsa says, girl, you suck his dick every night. You can't control that man. So then Lisa's like, girl, what? You in my house? Watch your mouth, Larsa. So then they're going back and forth. She was like, I went through a breakup, and so have you, so why aren't you understanding me? And so then Lisa tries to say, girl, it's not the same thing. I was married for 15 years. You and him have had you and him break up to make up all the time. It's not the same thing. And she was like, and so then Lisa was like, no, Larsa was like, don't do the whole numbers thing. You've been through a breakup. I've been through a breakup. And so then Lisa was like, but it was a fake one the first time. So then that's when Larsa calls. Like, she was like, girl, you're such a bitch. And so Lisa was like, Larsa, get out of my house. Get out of my house. And she was like, you are. So she was like, go to the door. You could go. And so Marisol was like, girl, we don't do that. We Cuban. We don't be kicking people out. She was like, don't be mean, Lisa. Don't be mean. Don't kick her out. Marisol's like, don't kick her out. So then Lisa's like, no, Larsa's like, all right, bet, I'm out. But then Kiki stops her and takes her into the bathroom. She starts crying in the bathroom, just being like, she's such a bad friend. Like, she don't know no loyalty. She's such a fake bitch. Like, she's horrible. Like, I can't believe that, like, she's doing me this way after all the things that I've done for her. So then everyone was like, Lisa, don't kick her out. So Larsa comes and sits back down after like crying. Even Kiki was like, I think Larsa is really upset about this. She was like, she got the snot stuff coming down her mouth. So she sits down, and next thing you know, Lisa's like, Larsa, I don't want you to cry. And so Larsa was like, well, you know what, girl, you always victimizing yourself. You live in Lisa land and you never care about anybody else. And Lisa's like, I'm victimizing myself. She was like, yeah. Because then that's when Lisa brings up how like her and Jody left a party because of their first breakup, which she felt like was fake. And then you even hear Gertie ended up saying in her confessional, she was just kind of like, well, we all know that Larsa got TMZ like on speed dial, so no one believes the breakup to makeup ratio, girl. At this point, it is what it is. So then like when Larsa's sitting down, she was like, you know what, you're stupid, you're a stupid bitch. And so Lisa stands up, she was like, you can leave, and Larsa's like, I'm already leaving anyway. And everyone's like, oh my gosh. But I didn't like how everyone was trying to tell Lisa she was wrong for kicking Larsa out. The lady called her out her name like 6 or 7 times. She had to leave the house. She had to go. So then you have Larsa and Kiki on the side of the on the park, well, not about to say the parking lot, on the sidewalk talking, and Larsa is just like, she's a fake friend, she don't know no loyalty, but basically karma gonna get her. Like, she was like, I now see Lisa, I now see her. And so Kiki says, let me wait until you get back in the car and then you can leave. And she was like, okay. And Kiki was trying to be a good friend to Larsa, because she was like, girl, don't let her see you sweat. You a bad bitch. Don't do this. I was like, this is so chaotic. It's so chaotic. But I see both sides of the Larsa versus Lisa, but I'm more so on Larsa's side. Lisa tried to clear up the whole AC thing, so let's read it. She said, I can't believe I have to address such a ridiculous rumor, but last night, RHOM's episode was a gross misrepresentation of what actually happened and manipulated editing. Jody and our non-cast friend were hanging out in the primary suite and lounge area, which was used as a common space with friends and family. They were not crowded in some solitary bathroom. Our friends did not want to be filmed, so they sought out privacy and a hangout spot. Any implications beyond that reality is completely false and upsetting. And for the record, AC equals air conditioning, something essential in Miami. Girl, no, ma'am. It's giving snow. It's giving snow, Lisa. But that's all I got for you guys today. That is it. That is all. And remember to be bravely authentic. Definitely hop down in the comments below, subscribe, and like the video. And I'm out, y'all. Deuces.